that feels like railroading. That feels like pushing. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. You can be a purist, but then you're just not going to finish a one shot. You're not going to finish it in one session. Good luck getting everybody together for a second one and everybody remembering what was going on in the first one. Hey, what's up, Unai? Hi, Ryan. I have a problem with my one shot. I never managed to make them short enough to last one session. Any recommendations? I do actually have recommendations for you. I have recommendations, and I have. I can draw something. In my opinion, one shots are the best when they actually happen in one session. Sounds like you probably agree. Doesn't mean they can't work other ways, but that is like the best. I think the secret to making this work has to do with sort of time boxing the pieces of your one shot. So if we consider that, let's consider that your one shot is sort of structured like this. And I don't know, every person's one shot is going to be different, but let's say that we have Act 1 or Part 1, we have Act 2, and we have Act 3. Now, that could be you start in combat, and then there's a section for like role playing, and maybe it ends with like a puzzle being solved, or maybe it starts with role play, and then there's combat, and or puzzle in the middle and solving some sort of thing, and maybe it ends with some big flashy combat. Maybe there's a little bit of combat, and then there's some puzzle solving, and there's more combat. I'm using 3, could be 4 acts, could be 5 acts, but generally 3 acts is a pretty safe place to start. And the problem, obviously, with one shots is that you get into this one and you get into the first part and it goes really well, and you get into the second, and everybody's having fun, and you look at the clock and you go, oh crap. And then without even getting to probably like the most interesting action at the end, you've got to kill it for next time. So what I suggest is that if you start thinking about your one shot broken down like this, and then you want to create triggers at 2 key points. There's going to be something that joins Act 1 to Act 2 and Act 2 to Act 3. And you want it to progress naturally. But if you go outside of your time window, however much you've set for that piece of the one shot, then you trigger it and sort of push the players down into the next act. So if we consider that, like, and my marker may be dying a little bit, but like if the entire one shot maybe is going to take place within, call it like, I don't know, is it 3 hours? Is that a typical amount of time? Then maybe if the first act is combat, then I might say, okay, that's probably going to be, that might be like a full hour, right? And maybe the role play or the puzzle solving, okay, that's not going to take quite as much time. That's like 45 minutes. So that leaves us like a full, 1 hour 15 for like whatever big kind of showstopper thing at the end that everybody's going to talk about. So this is kind of what you think, like this is the weight that you'd give. You could just go hour. You could say half hour and a half, like however you think it's going to be. I generally think the beginning is going to take a little bit more because people are getting used to everything and they're not into a flow state yet. So to fit this into your 3 hours, you get everything going with the first act, but then the key thing is whatever your trigger is, this is something that you can deploy when you're getting close to that 1 hour mark, that you can push the party forward into Act 2 no matter what they do. So a good example might be like take something like Wild Sheep Chase. It's a really popular one shot, and I'll probably forget some of how it works, but a lot of people have played it. And when I run it, the party is and I think this is generally how it is, but the party is basically met with the is it a sheep or a goat? They're met with the talking sheep at the beginning. And then they get basically attacked by people that are tracking the sheep down, and they have to fight the party. After that, and that's like, so that's the combat. After that, the next bit is going to be sort of hunting down, going where the sheep wants them to go. If that is taking too long, if the party is not sort of following and agreeing to go with the sheep fast enough, a couple different things could happen. The sheep could assist with the fight to end that sooner. That's if the combat's taking too long, but the sheep could also take something vital from the party or even an entire member of the party and ride off into the woods with them, effectively cutting out sort of the role play section and saying, it's time to get to this next piece, right? We're pushing down the slip and slide of fun stuff in this one shot. We're getting to the next act. Another way to do this might be, if it's, let's say it takes place, this whole thing takes place in a magical school. I've run a couple one shots that take place in magic schools. You can use the mechanisms of the school itself. Like if you're a student at the school, then you're still sort of beholden to like when the bell rings and you have to move on, or if a professor comes to speak to you at the magic school, you're kind of stuck. You sort of have to. The terms of detention, the terms and the threat of these things are going to force you, going to compel the party into these different areas. Now, that means that you have to be comfortable with, because this happens at both of these points, because you need to push everybody. Once the time ticks past what you have allotted, you've got to push them, you got to force them to go to the next part. That means that trigger, and obviously this is super specific to whatever your one shot is, you have to be comfortable with the party not accomplishing on their own that thing that they were doing, or it resolving in such a way that they can move forward. Examples on the fly are tricky. I'm trying to think of what I've used for this in the past. If it's a magic school and the party is investigating what happened to a missing student, this is one of the one shots that I've run a couple of times. The party, after their initial sort of there's a bit of an event that kicks things off, and then I guess kind of the first thing, the first trigger that pushes everything forward is that the kid goes missing, and the party is given their prompt. The second act for them is investigating. Well, this is very open-ended. There's a bunch of places in the school that they can investigate, and each one of those is different encounters and different things and roles and stuff that they can do. I don't really care how many places they visit and how many things they do, but at a certain point, there's an update. There's news. Some new evidence has been uncovered that is put in front of the party. They could maybe puzzle some of this stuff out themselves, but if they don't, we have to give them that essential piece of information, because now we go into Act 3. And if you're careful about how you lay these out, I mean, anybody paying attention can certainly recognize when these things, call it a MacGuffin, call it Deus Ex Machina, like people can recognize when these things are true. But your defense, and I think what people will understand fully and completely, is that, well, it's either that or we don't get it all done in time, right? Like to me, this is the way to make a one shot fit. And the one shot that I'm designing right now is built around this. I'm designing a one shot called the Case of the Withering Cottage. And it takes place in 3 acts. Starts out with the party being effectively attacked by the crazy creatures that live in the house. They investigate the cottage because they were sent there in the first place to find out what happened to the family that's missing. And in the 3rd act, they uncover where and have to sort of try to either follow after them or maybe bring them back. That's what the 3rd act is for. Well, the 1st act, when they're being attacked by creatures, these creatures are not all necessarily hostile. They could be placated. So there are even like creatures in the cottage itself that can assist with that. So if the party's taking too long to fight off all these creatures, well, then the helpful critters will assist. Some of the other creatures are going to run away. There's going to be a series of things that take this combat and effectively end it. The party's going to investigate the house. Well, what if they take too long, or they aren't able to sort of square conclusions quickly enough? Without spoiling my one shot, there is another force, let's say, in the cottage. Maybe it's even a cat that's jumping up on my chair right now. There's another force in the cottage that will effectively push them down the slip and slide into the last fun bit of of the experience. And there's justification for that. There should always be justification for these things. That's part of, I think, what's necessary when writing a one shot is thinking about these things and how to make sure that they're there and that they make sense and that they fit. And if you're thinking about it ahead of time, you can sort of design your one shot around those ideas, that there are these, you know, they're artificial. They're not the ideal way to do it, but it's a one shot. The constraints are different. I think it's totally fair. I do it this way, and it's been a really long time since I've had a one shot not get done in the amount of time that it was supposed to. Crane approves. So hopefully that helps. This is the approach that I use. This is the approach that I use when writing one shots, and you know, I haven't found a problem with it yet. The biggest problem is conceptually, because a lot of us that are writing experiences for D&D are like, well, we don't want to. That feels like railroading. That feels like pushing. And it's like, well, okay, that's fine. You can be a purist, but then you're just not going to finish your one shot. You're not going to finish it in one session. Good luck getting everybody together for a second one and everybody remembering what was going on in the first one. I think it's just the way to go. So hopefully that helps. Sorry to hear you had some trouble with it, but that's how we learn, right? Just iterate, do it again. I bet you could take the same one shot, whatever you're doing, and touch it up and have an easier time the next time.